Welcome to the LowCarbUSA podcast, where we seek to inspire you to help us build this community. I'm Doug Reynolds.
And this is Pam Devine.
So in this next episode, I have the president of the National Association of Sports Nutrition with us, Jeff Kotterman. And he has a pretty amazing story of his conversion to low carb. And so instead of taking up his time, I'm going to let him tell the story. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me. The story starts out, I've already established myself as a personal trainer, as a mentor to personal trainers, and as the director of the National Association of Sports Nutrition. We've certified personal trainers and sports nutritionists and had a set curriculum and a set standard that we should be increasing people's carbohydrates, not decreasing them. That performance centered around glycogen loading and carb loading. And I was pretty confident in that. And I was meticulously teaching people how to count calories, how to increase metabolism through meal frequency, and through gradually introducing more carbohydrates. So the percentage of macronutrients would go up over time. And that's what I'd been doing since 1990. So, for 25 years or so, we've been confident that we've been doing the right thing. And it's been difficult for people, but that validated my job as a sports nutritionist and a personal trainer. And I go to church with a doctor who's also been a client, who also worked out with me and went on a high-carb, low-fat diet with me and really struggled, but was diligent. And we lost about 15 pounds maybe of body fat with Dr. Brian Lenskes. And it got to the point where it was not sustainable. It was hard. And I hadn't heard from him on a professional basis for about literally 4 years. And Friday afternoon is kind of my time to unwind, kind of just not think about work. And I get a call from Dr. Brian Lenskes, and I'm just about to sit down on my couch and not think about anything. And he talks to me with this sense of urgency and this excitement. And I immediately think that he's going to put me in his downline for some network marketing thing. And I'm waiting to hear this product pitch. And it never comes. Just this level of sincerity and this level of, that comes with a physician, this level of academic presentation. It was almost like he was reading a paper to me and telling me about his own personal research and just telling me, listen, you have to look at the data. There's this low carb thing going on, and there's this intermittent fasting thing going on. And my immediate knee-jerk reaction was, well, meal frequency drives metabolism. We need to eat more, not less. We need to eat more frequently, not less. And we need to eat more fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And my athletes are just, they're consuming yams and rice every day. What are you talking about? He was very patient with me. He stayed on the phone with me for about 2.5 hours. Talking. He's the sports physician for our church high school. So he's on the field while the football team is warming up, still talking to me. And by the end of it, he had successfully convinced me that I need to research further this idea that low carbohydrate is going to cause athletes carb depletion, that's a myth. And I firmly believe, hey, you lower your carbs, you're going to lower your glycogen stores, you're going to lower performance. So we started to get into the academics of it. And then we started to talk about, well, what about cholesterol? Athletes are not immune to heart disease. And what about this high fat thing? And he said, no, just look at the data and look at the research. And I hung up the phone thinking that, well, he's not selling me a network marketing thing. He's sincerely conveying some things that he learned. And so I started to research it. And I think I had that same kind of bug that Doug, you talked about in the first podcast. And so just like delving into the Krebs cycle in your undergrad course, just trying to figure out metabolism, I really wanted to get into the biochemistry of it. And I really wanted to get into the performance part of it. I had already read and was confident that it was appropriate to do a ketogenic diet for epileptics, for other neurological disorders, even MS and cancers. It was appropriate as a medical nutritional therapy. But for sports performance, I thought, no, it's just not appropriate. But then I started to see other research out there, not just aerobic athletes, not just triathletes and ultra marathon runners, but also strength athletes and bodybuilders, power athletes, and it was intriguing to me. And then some other nutritionists that I had certified had come in and said, hey, we're going to start to do high fat, low carbohydrate. And I thought, initially, before I talked to Dr. Lenskes, I said, no, you're going to put your clients at risk. It's a bad move. But then after doing the research, saying that high fat, low carb produce less of a mortality rate, less of a heart disease risk, long-term, not just short-term, long-term, than high carb, low fat. So I started putting clients on it. And one of my hard bodybuilders who was a hard gainer. So this guy is naturally skinny, who I thought needs carbohydrate. He was having trouble. And so out of desperation, I just switched things up, put him on a ketogenic diet. In 2 weeks, he actually put on muscle, put on documented, not just millimeters of muscle, but he put on inches. And I used it in my talk with Dr. Bryan. And then Dr. Bryan said, I learned all about this from the LowCarbUSA seminar. And he introduced me at the seminar to you, Doug. And then I went last year and was just surprised at the amount of people, the amount of experts, the amount of academic research and smart people that were there, and people that were also energetic about this. And I had a tugging in my conscience because I had this personal training course and this sports nutrition license. And I had this community, this little microcosm of fitness professionals and coaches that had it ingrained. And I remember filming just a short YouTube video, and my wife was watching me film it, and she was shaking her head because what I said to clear my conscience so I could go to sleep was, hey, National Association of Sports Nutrition, we got it wrong. And after 20 years of telling people to add carbohydrates to their diet, to try to adapt your body to carbohydrate, we told them that no, we're actually inducing insulin resistance, even if you don't have a propensity for it. If we just inundate you with oatmeal and carbohydrate and sweet potatoes, it's going to be to your detriment in the long run. And there was pushback, tremendous pushback from a certain older portion of my membership. We have people refusing to renew their license because they are Gatorade advocates. They are high carb advocates. But we have this whole new group of people that sincerely are open to the latest research. They're willing to change. They're not just done with learning after their schooling ends. They want to continually learn. And out of this, we've rewritten the personal training course and the sports nutrition license, and we've combined them together with the great help of Doug and another guy that Dr. Bryan and Doug introduced me to, and that was Dr. Ben Bokikio. And he's this 70-something-year-old fit guy that he's a no-nonsense guy that just preaches a specific way of personal training that's totally integrated with a low-carb lifestyle. And if you just look at this guy's physique and you just talk to him for 15 minutes, he'll tell you his workout's only going to last 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, he'll convince you that most of the exercise programs out there are overkill and are in the wrong direction. So with his help, this guy is an exerciser that's been weight training for 45 years. He's got a great physique and he still does it. And he has 2 PhDs to back up what he's talking about with the personal training and the specific exercise. Now we've evolved into, and this has happened so fast, we've evolved into this new type of metabolic practitioner that along with some medical supervision, which we're getting more and more medical professionals involved in the low carb movement. Now we can facilitate the doctor's prescription. And now our market is open, not just to people that want to have a 6-pack abs and want to jump higher and lift heavier and be better at a specific sport. We have this broad spectrum of people within my own practice and within the practice of the people we're certifying. Now we have people that are coming because they want help with type 2 diabetes. They want help with heart disease. They want help with just lack of energy and being obese or approaching obesity. People are getting diagnosed with fatty liver and insulin resistance. And now we have this new practitioner that can come alongside these people and help them. And it's been just such a shift in my own experience as a sports nutritionist to be able to knowingly extend someone's life, knowingly make them able to be independent longer because they can move. They're not getting out of breath walking from their car into my office. They're able to socialize more. They're able to interact with their family more. It's a different kind of sense of gratification. And it's just exciting. It's reignited my career. And even though it's been painful, no joke, it's been painful after 25 years of doing something one way to totally switch it, to totally go 180 degrees. I feel like, you know, I'm Paul in the Bible. It's a Damascus moment. I'm going from persecuting, I'm going from calling Gary Taubes a quack to saying he was a trendsetter. He actually enlightened people. I am so happy to have someone like Tim Noakes, who also did that 180 and had such even legal persecution that I had inspiration that within my own little small organization, within the National Association of Sports Nutrition, we can do the same thing. And we're really all here to help people. And to come to a conference like we just had last month and see multiple people who are new to the whole low carb lifestyle and who are embedded in it and actually helping other people, and to be part of that, it's just fulfilling. It's fulfilling. I feel like I have a purpose, and I feel like it's no longer this superficial thing of just improving athleticism and improving aesthetics. It's something more than that. And I'm happy to be involved. And now we're going to do this annually. We're going to have the NASN come and meet in San Diego. As long as Doug has this convention here, we're going to meet at least annually so that we can share our experience and hopefully get more people to become practitioners, because if we don't change, it's just going to get worse.
Just, you mentioned being in San Diego, but I don't think you really talked about the fact that the reason you were there is, apart from a national meeting, but it was the final week, or the live weekend of this whole new course that you've created. So maybe quickly tell people about that.
Okay, so we had this traditional personal training course where you would sign up and get certified. We have a distance learning program and live events. And that's the old way we did things. And we did the same thing with the sports nutrition program. It was a course, and you had at-home distance learning stuff to do, and then you would test out. And now, because the whole low carb and implementing either low carb menu or a ketogenic menu is such a part of what we're teaching and what they're trying to implement, what we've done is we've integrated that into a course where you do some home study stuff, but then you get to really experience the conference. And it's not just a seminar where you're in a room all weekend. You've got a whole conference, you've got vendors, you've got speakers for 4 days, and the course integrates the actual speakers who are bringing stuff that might not even be published yet. And as part of your certification, you're experiencing that through lectures. You're actually able to train and interact some of the participants. So we really have this dynamic experience where we're taking practitioners who are either new to it or who have been doing personal training or sports nutrition for a long time. And now we're putting them in an environment where they get to learn on the fly and implement immediately what they've learned. So they come to this conference with some textbook information and knowledge enough to pass a test. But the real cool thing is they get to practically apply it immediately amongst other professionals and fine tune it and develop it so they can take it back to their home and immediately make changes. And it's not just a labor of love where you help people, although that has to be, in my opinion, first and foremost. It's financially easier to do this because now we're marketing to 85% of the population rather than the 15% that just want to tweak things. They're already healthy, they're already insulin sensitive, but now we've got a whole, I would say, floodgate of people in need of our services that need to be educated, that we can help.
And these courses also run throughout the year as well, like you said.
So they run continuously, and as the need develops, we'll have more seminars. But the big deal, and I always want to make it the big deal because it was for me the first time I went. I just looked around and said, "Wow, this is significant.
This is for
it's
real."
Be the San Diego in the summer convention. I want to be able to bring more and more NASN members and metabolic practitioners back to that. So if you go to nasnutrition.com, and right there on the front page, it talks about our comprehensive education course. This is like Comic-Con. People that go to this one are already going to be signing up at this one for the next one. And so we're preparing a year in advance for this stuff. And
well, thanks so much for being on. I look forward to having you on again.
Thank you.
So you'll notice that we haven't had any commercials at all during this podcast, and we intend to keep it like that if we possibly can. But at the same time, the work that we're doing and the efforts that we're going to get the clinical guidelines done, there's just so much to do. And in order to really, for this to be sustainable, we need your help. And so what we're asking you to do is go and take a look at our Patreon account. There's actually quite a few options there. It provides you with options to actually go onto our site, and there's membership options there where you can get access to all our video content and other perks of being a member, or even just, you know, $1 a month, become a patron. And you can find that in patreon.com/LowCarbUSA. I'll put it in the show notes and in the episode notes so that you can find it. And yeah, help us to change the world.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people take a look at the conference registrations, and I think they immediately assume that, you know, from a distance, that these might be money-making endeavors that we're doing with these conferences. And you know, it's hard to admit, and it's hard to tell people that we really aren't making any money from these. All 11 of the events that we've done have not been a profitable endeavor. We've literally had to dip into our credit, basically. It wasn't anything. It wasn't like we actually had a pocket to dip into and put money into. We've had to take loans and get a lot of credit for these events. So any little bit that you can help, every ticket that's sold, every little bit of $1 a month in a Patreon account will help us to fund our endeavors and fund the programs so that we continue to do some of these other things that are free content, the project management that we're doing on the clinical guidelines, will really go a long way.